I'm Joseph,
And I'm Nick.
and this is Fish Jelly.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Uh, I noticed people get our names mixed up, and I noticed it even more in our worst of 2022 video because we're wearing t-shirts.
Oh,
And mine says that's Nick, and yours says that's Joseph.
because those are the words that we say.
Right. So I'm Joseph, the
Yeah.
black one, who's not as smart as the other one.
Oh, please.
And
Yes,
then you can
are.
introduce yourself.
I'm Nick. I'm the caucasoid.
The Anglo-Saxon.
I'm the wasp. Actually, I don't know what my family. We're mutts. We're white mutts.
White people in America love to talk about what they're mixed with. Like,
Oh, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about religion.
oh,
The term wasp, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, is what spurred that.
then excuse my ignorance.
This is not about my.
I didn't mean to prejudge your statement.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, I've never done a 23andMe and all that stuff. I know because I really don't care. But no, I mean religious. I know we went to.
Well, your sister did. What were her results? What was the main?
I think there was some shock that there was a lot less German that we thought.
Oh,
But you know, my mother's mother was 100% Finnish, so I know there was a lot of that. But Prussian, something from the Spanish Peninsula or something. So somebody was doing something they shouldn't have had somewhere. But no, I was I'm trying to remember the church that we were held captive in for a while as children. What denomination that is, I don't know.
well, in Minnesota, isn't it Lutheran?
But we were northern Minnesota.
Oh,
Yeah, Lutheran's a thing.
I don't know much about these things.
I don't know. They told us that there was no Santa when I was about 6 or 7, so my mom was mad about
Anyhow,
that. But it got me out of going for years.
Nick is the white one who knows a lot about film and literature.
Yes.
And then there's me.
And that doesn't make me smart.
Yeah. So get it right. Look it up. You don't know who's who. Stop calling me. Well, no, I think it's funny because, yeah, in my mind, it's very clear who we are. But
people were misattributing
it's just
things to you.
Yeah. But if you know me, or like knowing, like me reading it is funny because they're attributing something you said to me, and it's like, well, I laugh because I wouldn't have known that. So the fact that they're attributing to me is funny. But for New Year's Eve, a friend invited us to a show. So we rang in the new year with the Dita von Teese.
Yes.
So we saw her show. I think it's called Glamatronics, or
yeah.
I'd never been to a full burlesque show, in the sense that, like, you know, we're spending 2 hours watching it. We've seen, like, or I with you have seen, like, Violet Chachki do a number.
Yeah.
That's the extent of it. Well, that's actually not true. So, now that I think about it, because I thought it was fine. I think Dita von Teese is...
She's beautiful.
She's beautiful. So I think that's enough for her to be transfixing for brief periods of time. And her show is formatted where she's sprinkled throughout, and then there are other performers to fill up the rest of the time. But watching her, it is pretty remarkable because she looks like a very well preserved, like, delicate ornament that's sort of slowly moving across the stage and taking off various articles of clothing until she's left with her breast out, covered in tassels.
A specimen of living porcelain.
So I think that's interesting to watch for a period of time.
For a period, yes.
It's, you know, she looks amazing. The outfits are amazing. I think I was a little put off by how the crowd was reacting to her, because she did, I believe, 5 numbers or 4, and there's a lot of, like, slowly removing clothes, and each time a piece of article of clothing would be removed, the audience would go insane.
I know.
And after the 3rd time, it's like, but she just did this 2 times before, and you just saw her breast.
But that's part of the game, and you didn't play it. Now we're marked for death.
Yeah. But again, I can see the appeal.
Well, it's just, you know, but in between when the other performers, she's doing costume changes during those numbers, and it's like all this work to get into these complicated pieces of clothing just to
slowly take them
we just
off,
gotta,
which I
you
mean
know,
is part of, I guess, the amusement.
it is. I mean, I think burlesque still is kind of a lost or even dead art, but
But we did go to that Wednesday, the Netflix show. We went to like the premiere party during the Halloween season,
it was right after the Halloween
or right
season.
after, and they had drag performers,
Mhm.
including Violet Chachki. And I thought, and she did a burlesque number, and which I thought was the best of the four performers.
Sure.
But the difference was she was more high energy. The song was more upbeat
Mhm.
and it had an edge to it. And then she herself was more active. Dita and the other performers were pretty sedate. There was one woman named Taylor,
Yes.
the one black person on
The one black woman. There
the
were
one black
other, yeah.
there was a black oh, there was a man. Yeah. She gave me what I needed. It
Uh-huh.
was very Josephine Baker, like
Yes.
I mean, it was
No
beautiful.
props needed. Yep.
And it was nothing, just her on stage. And that was I could have watched 2 hours of that.
Sure.
But I still enjoyed it. It was nice. That it's not something I would have normally done. So I appreciated that. We had a nice dinner at a restaurant called Little Sister in downtown LA,
Mhm.
which I would not recommend. But
Oh, it
I
was fine.
I enjoyed it for the company, but I did not. I think the ambiance is lacking for the price and the food.
To me, that felt like a lot of restaurants in France, per se, or feel almost exactly like
Well,
that.
I've talked about this on the podcast before. I'm just really tired of like all these trendy places that are overpriced, and then you're sitting in these tight spaces on uncomfortable chairs, on tables that are too
Already
low.
making me feel big boned.
Yeah, too close to other people, and then you hand me this like plate that's like it looks cool, but there's so much on the plate I can't eat. It's like garnish and
Bones and gristle, and God, the cilantro they must go through at Little
oh my
Sister. Oh my!
goodness.
At my first dish, I ate all of it like a good little boy, and then I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to eat all that cilantro.
Yeah, and then I ordered like a short rib thing that was like 60% fat, and then they like the bone marrow. They gave me a big bone that had bone marrow in it, and then they gave
Mm.
me a dish with bone marrow and
We
butter,
we should have asked what that was. We assumed that was
and then
bone
like
marrow.
6 little slivers of like bread,
You needed more bread,
and there were no vegetable. I mean, that wasn't a proper meal
and it took a long
for that
time.
kind of money. And it took, and then the service, like immediately the server comes out and says, "Have you been here before?" No. Well, this is how we do things. And when you order, we bring it out when it's ready. So it's not going to come out at the same time. So you need to share your food. And mine was the last to come out. And that was an hour after we ordered.
But I appreciate that he told us that because we ate at that Greek restaurant in Silver Lake where they didn't bother to tell us that.
Shout out, what's the name
So
of that place?
Greekman's,
That was garbage.
it was garbage.
Greekman's in Silver Lake. I was so disappointed.
I was too.
If
And
they,
I love
if
Greek
someone from
food.
there reaches out to me to try to give me a free meal, I still wouldn't
I
go back.
love Greek food. I mean,
I do too.
that's why I chose to go there for my birthday. But
And it's not your fault because I would have assumed that would also be a nice place. I could not believe how
well,
disappointing.
I even though that lady there didn't tell us that, I assumed it. So that's why I ordered a bunch of dishes, right? But and then they came out
In the
like
most bizarre
the
order.
hummus came out almost last.
The hummus came out last with
No,
no
the
accoutrement.
fries were
And
last.
the prices would indicate that there would be more than
So I bought like chicken satay or whatever. And like there were two little skewers. Like you see these two grown men here. Tell me.
Can we talk since I'm going to rant about food? So the other night we had dinner at this vegan Mexican restaurant, which was pretty good
On Melrose,
on
yeah.
Melrose.
Mhm.
And then of course I wanted something sweet, so we went to Milk
Oh
Bar.
boy, yeah.
Chill. I am forever upset about this damn place. We ordered 3 things.
Mhm.
Their little crack pie shit, that milk pie,
Which I've made before.
which is fine. And then 3 little truffle cake balls, so like cake pops that they're calling truffles, but they're not even.
I'd rather have the cake.
Starbucks cake pops are more
better.
rich and dense and moist than these things.
Agreed.
And then a slice of their chocolate cake. And so the total was 20
And you keep in mind you don't see the dimensions of the cake or the pie.
because well, here's what I want to talk about. It was $27 plus of course they asked for a tip, so then it's like over $30 for the 3 things. And everything is pre-cut and pre-packaged, and you can't see what's in the box. But I could tell from the weight of it that the milk pie was going to be like the size of like 3 sticks of gum.
Yeah.
And you can see the little cake truffles, which again, you can buy Milk Bar stuff at the grocery store. So this shit, it tasted like something that was in a bag at a grocery store, like sitting for days.
Yes.
And then the box of the cake slice, because that shit was over $11 for that one cake slice. So I assumed based on the size of the box, it would be a. Even if it would have filled up the box, I still would have felt like this is not the biggest slice of cake this should be for this
Right.
price. It was. I'm not exaggerating. I
You
mean,
took a picture.
I know, but like, did you think I was being unreasonable?
No, you went upstairs because I opened it and I knew when you came down that there was gonna be problems. That's why I
If
met you.
anyone from
That's why I
Milk,
met you at the stair and said,
yeah, you warned me like you're gonna be upset, and I thought you like
"Ate
put a
it."
dent in the wall or something.
Oh,
Um,
fixable.
if anyone from Milk Bar is listening, y'all need to send me like a gift card. The PO box is listed in the
No, I don't.
description of the episode.
I mean, the flavor of that was only just
Oh,
fine.
I don't think it was. I don't think the cake was that great. I think the truffle balls were like. I mean, the cake pops at Vaughn's taste better.
Yeah, I don't need to go back there. I make
The
better.
milk pie, the milk bar pie, whatever that was. I thought it was fine, but we've had that before.
I make better cake and pie myself. So
I think that yeah, if you would have made a chocolate cake, it would have been better. But anyway, I'm so irritated by, and then the service was just like this lady standing there, not really being as like helpful.
she was fine.
No, because you weren't paying attention to her because
Oh,
she was talking to her cohort, and they were kind of acting annoyed because someone asked about something, and they're like, "Well, the slices are over there. That's what we have." And then it's like, and then you turn that damn computer screen around and want to tip, and it's like you did literally nothing. Everything is pre-sliced. I had to get it myself, and then when she asked if you wanted a bag, you had to put the shit in the bag yourself.
I did, but
So what are you doing that you want me to tip you 20% on $27 worth of shitty dessert? That's
oh,
over a $5
I
tip.
know, but LA is expensive, and she probably is. If she's working there, she probably doesn't have the greatest living situation. Is
Sure,
how I think.
sure,
So
but I just think that I'm not into this. Like everyone thinks they need a tip. You didn't do anything. You did nothing. You did nothing. You probably didn't even slice those cakes.
she
Like
probably
someone in the
didn't.
earlier in the day did that. I don't know. The combination of being asked for a tip when to me a tip is like for a service worker who provided a service to you.
Sure.
But if you're just doing your basic job, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm cheap and I don't tip poorly, but sometimes the shit gets out of hand.
Yeah. Well, but part of it's inflate. You know, how many a dozen eggs cost over $5 now? So you know, or
Yeah, but it's
I
not
don't
our
know.
but yeah, but I mean that's a societal thing that we need to push back on. Like we need to raise the minimum wage and people need to be paid a living wage. You
Yeah.
provided health care. Like it can be me. You know, the damn cashier at PetSmart had a tip jar out. Like this doesn't make any sense. Like me buying why am I tipping you when I had to go grab my cat food and all you did was scan it?
Yeah.
Why would you get a tip? Why? I don't understand. Why is the person who rang up my bottled beverage at like if I'm buying a bottled water at Starbucks and then they have their little tip jar out, it's like why would I
But you
tip
have the
you?
option not to tip.
I know, but it's just like this idea that like I would tip you. I don't know. I'm going on a rant about something I didn't want to, but we
Okay.
can move on to something else. Oh, and then we got to meet Dita Von Teese,
Yeah.
in an
I
interesting,
guess if you call that meeting,
like in an interesting, like after parties situation that was not a party. It was just like a conference room.
that shit was so fucking LA. That shit drives me crazy. The people that did that were fawning over the yeah, just people standing around watching each other stare at her in this VIP section where you could take pictures. I Not my thing.
I think for the people, there were a couple of people there who clearly really liked her,
Good
and
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 great for
this was a
them.
chance for them to meet someone they like. I think that was really cool. It was fun to watch them because you could tell like they really liked her and they bought her merchandise. But
Sure.
then there were other people who just like, and then hearing people talk.
Oh,
Do you remember me? I did this. I did that. It's very much not my scene. And if I ever get to the point where like people would want to meet me, I only want to be around people who actually want to meet me,
well, of course.
and I would have to come up with a way to vet it. Like if you watch our videos or listen to podcasts, you need to quote me in something because like
Oh boy.
just because you recognize me and you want a picture with me and then you're there for 5 minutes, there were people there like taking multiple pictures and trying to talk to her about stuff, and you could tell that they were just like they wanted time with a famous person.
Yes, that's all it
That shit
is.
was annoying.
But I mean, the event, the after party itself felt very LA, like it wasn't orchestrated to be a party.
No, there was no music.
Yeah, it
There
was.
was an open bar and they had snacks. But
And some people were taking advantage of those
oh my
snacks. Oh
god,
my god.
that's the other thing. People sit around. Joan Collins was at the performance,
She was.
and a person who was sitting with her, because the person we went knew some people over there too. So anyway, that person who was acting all fancy and from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you see people close up. It's like, whoa.
Yep. Like, oh, you are
He looked
having
like a crackhead,
you're having a hard time, sir.
and then he was eating all those free snacks, and then he left a mess.
He left a huge
Like when
mess.
you go to Applebee's and there's a toddler in a high chair, and
Yeah.
then they leave. That's the mess he made.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that.
No, I could. People are whatever.
But okay, let's move on to something better. So since it's the new year, and since Apple Music reminded us, I thought it would be fun to go through our top 10 songs
Are you shocked?
and our top 10 artists. So do you want to go through artists first?
Sure.
So we can just alternate.
Okay.
So who's your number 10 artist on? And this is through Apple Music, which is the platform we both use.
Mm-hmm.
I only use Spotify very rarely for stuff that Apple doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have YouTube Premium, so I do listen to stuff on there. But 90% of the time it's Apple Music. And the same for you. Okay, so who's your number 10 artist of the year for 2022?
Boney M.
Oh, well, you do like Sunny.
Rasputin.
Or, sorry, Rasputin.
And all kinds of,
Rasputin.
Yeah.
No, and you like Sunny.
And it's Sunny, I listen to a lot, yeah.
My number 10 is RuPaul.
Okay, not surprised.
I think for 2022, the song I probably played the most was "I'm a Winner, Baby."
2020. That was my number one last year.
Yeah, I like that song. Who's your number 9?
Joe T. Vanelli.
I don't know who that is.
Yes, you do, because you were the one that found that awesome 2020 remix of Eartha Kitt's.
Oh, so you've been listening to that song, or have you discovered other music from that person?
No, I just listened to that song.
There's a really good song that this artist remixed using Eartha Kitt's vocals for a song called "I Need a Man," or
that's Grace Jones. Where is my man?
Where is my man? And quote some lyrics from that song because it's funny.
Oh god, now I have to think about it though.
Like I need a man with a big
yacht, so you can take me to Monte Carlo.
Yeah, if you don't know that, "Where's My Man," Eartha Kitt remix.
Because often we're around the house screaming, "I need him now."
Yeah, that's the quotable from that song. I need him now.
But I was strutting up and down the streets of Cannes this year, having that on repeat.
My number 9 artist was Kylie Minogue.
Oh,
she has a lot of songs I like, but particularly some of her live albums I really like. Tracks from her live albums, including "Get Out of My Way." That's a favorite. And "The One" I really like. Who's your number 8 artist?
Beyonce.
Well, that's a good choice. Or my number 8 is Christine W., who I've loved since I was in college in the 90s. Who's your number 7 artist?
The Scat Brothers.
What would I know?
I've been asking you to listen to "We Walk the Night."
Oh, okay. I need to do that then.
Mm-hmm.
My number 7 is actually like a collection. It's instrumental jazz music. That's what I listen to when I'm working.
Okay.
Oftentimes.
That tracks.
When I really need to concentrate, I'll put that on. What's your number 6?
Donna Summer.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
My number 6 is another. So this one is smooth jazz.
Oh.
I listen to this too when I'm trying to focus. Your number 5?
Compromat.
What is that?
Like a French, German kind of techno punk.
My number 5 is Christina Aguilera. I've been listening to "Your Body" a lot.
Oh, the new version,
the new,
obviously.
Yeah, and like "Let There Be Love." I even like "Show Me How You Burlesque." I do like
burlesque.
Your number 4 artist?
Vitalik.
I know Vitalik. Mm-hmm. My number 4 is Beyonce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at her creeping up there.
Your number 3?
Adult.
What is that?
A band.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Oh, I listen to them a lot. Actually, I guess I've played some of them. I Feel Worse When I'm With You is a song I know I played for you.
That was your number 3?
Yeah.
My number 3 is Mary J. Blige.
Okay.
She's a forever favorite of mine. Your number 2 artist?
Madonna.
Oh. My number 2 artist is Janet Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise. And your number 1 artist?
Ladytron.
Oh.
At 1,169 minutes.
Lord help us, Jesus. Well, my number 1 artiste is Madudu.
Okay.
I do really really, really, really like Madonna.
Sure.
She's a very close second. Well, she's not a close second to Janet Jackson, but I listen to more of her music. I feel like Janet's like I o- I only listen to Janet when I need something. I
Uh-huh.
feel like I need to
Sure.
feel.
Yeah,
Whereas
no.
Madonna, I can always.
Well, that's like me with Sigourney now. It's like I've so exhausted the filmography that it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I need her right now in this moment for
Yeah,
that.
when I need Janet, I know what she can give me and it works. So I don't listen. But I mean, clearly she's my number two artist. And I listen to a lot of music. So that was a lot of minutes. Okay, moving on to top 10 songs.
Mhm.
What's your number 10?
Break My Soul, the Madonna
Oh,
Beyonce.
Beyonce
Yeah.
remix. My number 10 is Get Together by Madonna.
Okay.
I love that song. And I
Mhm.
like the video.
Yeah.
Your number 9 song?
Decepticon by La Tigre.
Do I know that?
No, but I quoted that something from that a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
You'd like it.
My number 9 is Commander by Kelly Rowland
Still? Oh my
featuring David
god.
Guetta. That's a good gym
It
song.
is.
Your number 8 song?
Uh, Roses, the Immenbeck remix by St. John.
Oh. My number 8 is Physical by Dua Lipa.
I listened to that a lot
I
many
do
times.
like that
It is a
song.
good song.
Your number 7?
L'une est l'autre by Vendredi sur Mer.
Do I know that?
I'm played you. It's a nice like vibe song. I like it when I'm driving.
Okay.
Obviously in French. I played it for you, and you were like, "Yeah, that sounds like something you'd like."
Your
You're number 7.
my number 7 is On Our Own from Bobby Brown. That's the Ghostbusters song.
Oh God.
Yeah. Your number I that it's a really cute song. Your number 6 track?
Hair's Todd by Compromat. It's good to run to.
Um my number 6 song is Victory by Puff Daddy
Mhm.
featuring the Notorious B.I.G. and Busta Rhymes. I think Biggie's lyric, like his first verse, he has two verses. The first one is so good. And he has that line where he's saying, oh, now I just forgot it. Something like it escaped me. But anyway, I really, really like that song. Number 5.
Where is My Man featuring Eartha Kitt, Joe T. Vanelli. It's a certain remix of that song, but it is so good.
My number 5 is Bananas by Queen Latifah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I really like her
My favorite.
two verses in that.
The name of my favorite Queen Latifah song is uh, what is it called again? I just want to.
Oh.
Fuck. Why am I
I
blanking?
understand.
I can't
Oh, I
understand.
can't
I just can't
understand.
understand.
Oh, yeah,
That's a really good
that
song.
album is
Yeah.
very good. Okay, your number 4.
Walk the Night by the Scat Brothers,
Oh.
which I'm telling you, I didn't know about the song until what's the day I saw Megan?
Mm. Oh, because they play it. Oh,
Because that's what she's
wow.
dancing to. So
So
I've
that's your
been
number
4th
4
song
song
of the
after like
year.
a month? Wow.
Yeah.
My
Pretty
number
good.
4 song is On Top. That's a Mary J. Blige song featuring 504. I really like the beat to it. Your number 3 song?
Romeo by Donna Summer.
Oh god. My number 3 song is Ape Shit by the Carters.
I know you really like that song,
Child,
which
that
surprises me.
well, it that song really has to be appreciated with like a good sound system.
Sure.
So, my last car specifically had a very, very nice sound system. So I would play that all the time. So that probably added to the count. And then I was gifted some Beats headphones, like the
Mhm.
studio Beats, because I usually use Jabra. So do you. And I think they're very good.
Well, I have to move.
Yeah,
So
Jabra
yeah.
are great. I think the sound quality, the bass for the price, and then if you're very active, like if you run,
Mhm.
or like I would do like my daily burn, like hit stuff with those on, they stay in. And the sound quality is great. But then I was gifted Studio Beats headphones, like the old school over the head. And I have to say those sound like 50% better.
I'm sure, yeah.
So Ape Shit sounds really good on that. Your number 2 track?
Tonight We Fall by Adult,
Oh.
which is from a 2013 album by them, but it's just got a really sweet, dark, melancholy vibe to it. I don't know. I really like it.
My number 2 song is Czar, Czar by Busta Rhymes from his new album. I
Oh, I
think
haven't listened to that
the
again.
beat is so good and his flow, he sounds really
Oh, wait, no, you
growly.
have played that
And
for
then
me,
the
yeah.
opening of the song is Chris Rock
Yes.
like
Yes.
introducing him, which is funny. But your number 1 song for 2022 is
City of Angels by Ladytron.
oh,
It's from their forthcoming album that drops, I believe, this month in January.
Nice. My number one song is Amazing by Mary J. Blige.
Okay.
Even though it features DJ Khaled, who I cannot stand,
Well,
I love this song. It's such a fun, happy song.
yes, you do play that a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Moving just a quick, so we're going to make a video about Nick's letterbox stats for 2022, but just to
I just needed to be clear to the people because I technically watched 774 films this year. 458 of those were 2022 releases, 316 were older films. And actually, now that I've caught up with Letterboxd, this was a lean year for me
oh,
because usually
you've watched more in previous years.
I hit close to, usually I'm over between like 850 and 970.
That's excessive, and I think explains a lot about what it's like to live with you. And
Okay,
that's an excessive amount of movies.
sure.
Um, but I mean, it's impressive to some or astonishing to most. We need to take a break. All right, we have another like favorites list I wanted to go over with you.
Oh,
Did you see President Barack Obama's favorite movies of 2020?
yes, Mr. Obama, The Fablemans. The Fablemans.
I know. It's not a bad movie.
No, but
so I can't shit on
I
it.
invite everyone to look up what Joyce Carol Oates said about it on Twitter.
So his list consists of The Fablemans, Decision to Leave,
which Park Chan-wook, which I tried to get you to watch. Very good.
The Woman King,
Good.
After Sun,
Yes.
Emily the Criminal,
Okay.
Petite Maman,
Yeah.
Descendant, which he says he's biased because his production company produced that.
I watched that. You wouldn't watch it.
Happening,
Yeah.
Till,
Oh, well, yes.
Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Oh, of course.
Top Gun Maverick,
Okay.
The Good Boss,
I with Javier Bardem. I haven't seen that actually.
Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy,
Oh yes, Hamaguchi.
A Hero,
Farhadi. Yep.
Hit the Road,
Panahi's son.
Tar,
and
After Yang.
No. Okay, two of those I have to.
But that's a pretty.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, when you think of, I mean, we were watching other people's best and worst lists, and I feel like a lot of people's best and worst lists indicate to me that they don't watch that many movies, or they only watch movies that come out like through their AMC pass that they get. Like,
yes,
yeah, and even people's worst list is like, oh, you're only ranking movies that you saw like at AMC, so your list is very limited, and everyone's list is the same. It's like
very
the same
similar.
configuration of the same 10 movies.
Well, kind of like their best list,
different configurations.
I think that's part of the problem with our culture is nobody wants to stick their necks out and say what they really feel about some things, and there are certain pieces of art that we label as appropriate to demolish and tear apart, aka Blonde, which is not deserving of the vitriol whatsoever, and I will go to my grave thinking that. How are we in a world where Glass Onion is praised at all and Blonde is demonized? Like,
well, I think the thing that we need to remember is people have sort of like an emotional reaction to stuff that isn't logical, and I think that's fair because we all do that.
Like, who's that one idiot you put on that was saying that Blonde is exploitative? And it's like, that's the fucking point. The fucking point right there.
Well, but that isn't, I mean, that's not an argument for it being okay or good. I also think that it was exploitative, or however you say it, but I don't know that that's, I mean, that's a lot of things. So I feel like if you're going to say that movie, if you're going to say that it's exploitative and that's why you don't like it, then you shouldn't like a lot of things because, but
well, right. But
I just didn't care for that film. Rubbed me the wrong way just because I thought there were some moments that were crunchy, but the biggest thing was like, we're making up a story about a historical figure, which is kind of how I felt about Emancipation. Like,
sure,
that person is
the blanks being filled.
That person is a real person, and then everyone like commenting on the video like, this is a real person. Yeah, I know that because we said that. I'm saying that it's weird that there's a real person who affected our culture, and instead of highlighting what we know this person life meant to people, we're like creating an entire narrative and filling in all these blanks to sensationalize it from my perspective. So I can appreciate why people, but that would be like me saying Emancipation was the worst movie of the year. It's not.
No.
Maybe I didn't care for it, but like there were way worse things.
Oh yeah, like Elvis and Bros didn't like him, but there's a lot worse.
But anyway, getting back to President Obama's list, I think it shows that,
I think he watches a wide range of things. I've been impressed by his list in the past. It's interesting, kind of like John Waters. I always enjoy reading his list as well.
Anyway, you were talking about this earlier, so I was just going to mention it. So, a couple of years ago, Janine Garofalo talked about nearly landing the female lead in Fight Club, but Edward Norton refused to sign off on her casting because he wanted his then fiancee Courtney Love to get the role. But
Oh,
Brad Pitt refused to sign off on Courtney's casting, so the role eventually went to Helena Bonham Carter. Um, and then Courtney Love was on Mark Maron's podcast, and she said that the reason Brad Pitt wouldn't sign off on her is because she wouldn't sign off on Brad Pitt wanting to do the Kurt Cobain biopic years
oh,
ago. And then and then in 2020, Brad Pitt's production company tried again to do the biopic, and she said no. So she's saying that's why she wasn't in Fight Club, because he was mad that she wouldn't let him do the Kurt. He wanted to be Kurt Cobain back then, and then now he's still mad because she won't sign off on it. So anyway, I thought that was
that
interesting.
is interesting. That's the year she was in Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman film with Jim Carrey.
I wanted to shout out a podcast I've been listening to.
The ladies.
Yes,
Hmm.
so there's a podcast called Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies, so DSM. It features two. Well, I'll just read how they describe their own podcast. We diagnose character behavior from Black television shows and films, giving our clinical opinion and just kick it with you to help expand the mental health conversation by making it relatable. So it's two Black women who appear to be maybe like slightly younger than I am, and they're both licensed
Well,
therapists.
yeah, because I know one was born in 1990 because she said she was 2 when
Oh,
Boomerang came out.
that's right. One of them is like in her like yeah, I think they're in their mid to late 30s, the two of them. Well, no, 1990 would be 30.
3 this year.
Yeah, sorry. She's in her early 30s and I think the other one's probably late 30s. But anyway, they're both licensed therapists, and they talk about Black TV shows, Black movies, and there are a couple episodes that just talk about the artists themselves, like Jamie Foxx. And they basically diagnose like characters in the
Hmm.
movie, ideas. They talk about things from their clinical perspective using the DSM, but they're
But
also super like fun and relatable, and they talk in a way that's like just.
conversational, yeah.
I would love if either of these ladies, Courtney Cope or Dr. Rosie B, if they're listening, which I'm sure they're not, but if any, like I would love to be on their podcast.
Hmm.
They're so fun and cute and smart, and I love how they go from sort of cracking up and acting the fool to then literally like diagnosing someone and giving the breakdown, and they sound very knowledgeable. So
Yeah.
I've been binging that the last several days.
Hmm.
I really, really enjoy it. But I would recommend this podcast, Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies podcast. Okay, there's my the last thing on my little short list is today's Morris Chestnut's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday,
So shout
Morris!
out
And
Morris.
he's currently featured in The Best Man. Uh, what's the name of that series?
Yeah, I
Which is
forgot.
obviously continuation of the two films,
But
but
people
The
know
Best Man
him
Chronicles.
is that what it's called? But people, Morris Chestnut's a fixture in like
Of
90s
course.
black cinema,
Mhm.
and people probably know him most. Well,
And he still looks pretty damn good.
I think he's in one of those like NCIS or Law and Order
Yes.
type shows, but yeah, and looks the same.
Yeah, because they used to have that
He and Nia Long.
a print of him plastered all over the Grove for whatever series he was in for a long
Oh,
time. Remember?
sure. Okay. There was a question. Someone asked because we mentioned that we would like to make our own film, and would it be a Fish Jelly production? Yes. I mean, that's the plan. Unless our accountant tells us we need to do it differently, it would be
Yeah, I
like.
mean we're
I mean, I would love for it to be like a Fish Jelly production,
yeah.
because I think for marketing purposes, it would make sense to have sort of an omni-channel approach to the brand. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is the plan, that we would produce it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, films released we didn't cover. Turn Every Page.
The Turn Every Page, the adventure of Robert Caro and Robert Gottlieb, about an author. Robert Caro is a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and his editor, directed by Lizzie Gottlieb, who I forgot to verify, but I'm sure that's Robert's daughter or other relative. Caro, so this is a documentary. The only thing that released this week we didn't cover. The Power Broker was a 1970s book he wrote that was very famous about a New York urban planner named Robert Moses. I think he also had a very expansive publication on LBJ, uh, that neither of which I've read. But yes, we did not watch that documentary. It came out.
Okay, we watched a lot of movies for fun.
Oh, it was a nice break to be able to choose things to watch
Okay, first was A Husband for Christmas
on Christmas.
on Christmas
This
Day.
was trash.
Well, Christmas Day, my mom just was at the house the entire day cooking.
Yes,
So
literally the entire day.
so we put on various things, but we actually sat down and paid attention to something called A Husband for Christmas. It's from a director
David Dakota.
who has this is his brand to make these corny.
He makes a lot of movies with Vivica A. Fox, and
He
usually
recycles a lot of the cast, yeah.
yes, but she's usually the featured lead. But they usually have a title like The Wrong Husband or The Wrong Stepmother or the Wrong Something. It's
Anyway, this movie was about Vivica Fox works for this company run by Eric Roberts, and he wants to hire this guy who we know from
Aliens. He's Private Frost from Aliens.
Who's playing a British man, British national,
and which is a plot point, and that is
his accent is.
I mean, he still looks good, but I wish.
I mean, I might as well try to be British.
Oh, it
like
was bad.
it was that bad.
It was pretty bad.
And her boss, Eric Roberts, forces her to marry him
to get her, so she can get.
And he promises her a promotion
to VP or some shit,
so that he can get citizenship. Which is obviously like, girl, I would have immediately said, let me get back to you while I go talk to an employment attorney.
This phone,
yeah, can you say this into my phone so I can sue you? But she goes along with it, and of course, like there's INS issues
immediately.
Oh my
They're
god!
Immediately up their ass.
Everyone looks crazy in the movie. Literally, everyone looks crazy as hell.
Jack A. Harry, who I don't remember what.
Oh, except doing. Jack A. She's fine.
I don't know what she's doing in the film, but she shows up for like one scene.
One 30-second scene where she's supposed to. Oh, well, her function is to make Vivica's character feel bad that she's.
That's right. She's her competition from school.
Yeah, and like Jack A. is doing better financially and in her career, so that kind of pushes Vivica's character. It puts her, it primes her for saying yes to this stupid situation.
And then Vivica's best friend is played by Dominique Swain.
Yeah, who's like, this lady looks like she's like 25 years younger than you.
And who I remember as being in Adrian Lyne's Lolita remake, which you used to own on VHS.
That's right. And then after we watched A Husband for Christmas, we took a break and then we put on A Mom for Christmas.
Which was from my childhood.
Which you had talked about a lot, starring
Olivia Newton-John, a 1990 television film directed by George Miller. Not the George Miller, the other George Miller.
It's basically like if you took the movie Mannequin.
Yes.
But made it for Christmas.
Yes. And when growing up because how old was I in 1996? That when people talked about Mannequin, I thought they were talking about this movie for years.
There's this girl living with her dad, and the mom is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the little girl's like wishing for a mom, and she's kind of an outcast. And then there's this lady who works in the mall, played by
Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond,
who I guess is like a witch, right?
But also works part-time.
But also is like a retail associate at Macy's. But she overhears this girl saying she wants a mom, and she turns one of the mannequins into Olivia Newton-John to be this girl's mom for like 24 hours. But
it's longer than that,
but it doesn't make sense to me, because then when Olivia Newton-John's character comes alive, she explains that some of the mannequins are already alive.
For 2 hours a night, they get to be alive or
whatever. So, but then not all mannequins are like that, because some of them don't have that spark, which was actually a creepy scene, because there's a scene where Olivia is walking through the mall and she approaches some mannequins, and then she goes like, oh, weird, these don't have the spark.
They're a new brand of mannequins that all look the same.
So I actually thought that was creepy.
Yeah.
And of course, it ends how you would think, which is that there's some troubles, but then ultimately the little girl wants Olivia to be her mom.
And Doug Sheehan from Knocked Landing plays the dad, who I thought looked like Clu Gulager. But she comes to life because he also believes and falls in love with her.
Okay.
But that George Miller, who directed The Neverending Story 2 and another Christmas TV movie a year later called In the Nick of Time, starring Lloyd Bridges as a soon-to-be retiring Santa.
Oh, God. Okay, we watched a movie called Scorchers.
Oh, my God.
Which I highly, highly recommend. It's terrible.
It's really bad.
It stars Faye Dunaway, James Earl Jones, Jennifer Tilly,
Denholm Elliott.
This movie is so problematic. First, the person kind of narrating it is this guy trying to do like a Cajun accent, and it's
Mhm.
terrible. And then
It
Faye
looks like
Dun
Fred Armisen in a SNL skit.
oh, it's he sounds like Jason Sudeikis doing Main Justice,
Yeah.
but Faye, it's like this small town in like maybe the
In
80s
Louisiana.
in Louisiana in the Bayou, and Faye Dunaway is like the town whore,
Mhm.
and Jennifer Tilly plays this woman whose dad is a preacher,
Mhm.
and her husband is just like this hunky, overly hunky guy.
Patrick Warburton, who I've never seen so hunky and young.
It was shocking how like good looking he was.
Yeah.
We find out that her husband and her dad, the town preacher, are having sex with the town whore Faye Dunaway.
Mhm.
And so a big plot point is Jennifer Tilly confronting Faye Dunaway about that, and her having to tell her basically like step your pussy up if you want to keep your husband happy.
Mhm.
But then there's another side plot with another woman who's the daughter of the narrator, the
Mhm.
main justice
Mhm.
Bayou guy.
Emily Lloyd, I think, is the actress. Yeah.
And we see that on that same night she's gotten married.
Mhm.
And then her husband, who's also very attractive, wants to have sex with her, but she doesn't want to because she's scared it's going to hurt.
Mhm.
And then their entire plot point is that in their bedroom, while they're trying to have sex and she won't, the dad comes in
To pressure her.
to convince her to have sex with her husband. And so all three of them are in this bedroom trying to convince this poor lady. Well, the two of them are trying to convince this poor lady to have sex. And the dad finally does convince her. And
By
there's a scene where he makes her pretend that her dead mother is
who died in
there.
childbirth.
Oh my God. And
It,
then Faye Dunaway looking crazy as hell.
who seems very amused. Denholm Elliott is the town drunk, and James Earl Jones is the town bartender. He's screaming all his lines,
There are so many reasons to watch this movie. I would say Faye Dunaway is the main one, but also
as always.
James Earl Jones shouting every single line of dialogue. And he's the bartender. So not only is he shouting all of his lines, but before he shouts them, we take a beat for him to walk from behind the bar.
Yeah.
He always has to like take a moment to walk from behind the bar, and then he starts pointing his fingers and yelling.
Mhm.
Someone needs to make like a compilation edit of just James Earl Jones. That would be gold.
It's funny. It's directed by David Beard, who's now dead, but it's based on his own play that he opened in Los Angeles. I don't know how this got made, but
It is must see. It's terrible. Okay, then we watched another outrageously terrible movie that I think might be on my list of like must rewatch regularly.
oh, I've told you for years.
The Lonely Lady,
Yes.
starring Pia Zadora.
Hmm. And Ray Liotta.
It's basically about this woman who wants to be a screenwriter and all the things she has to go through to basically, as she says, fuck her way to the top.
Hmm.
Uh,
And win an Oscar.
and she ultimately wins an Oscar and then renounces like all of motion picture
Yeah.
during her acceptance speech. But it is so captivating.
It definitely is.
We did watch it with two
a
friends.
mutual friend that we met through a friend. We've always joked about, since I've known her for 3 months, about having a Pia Zadora double feature with this and Butterfly. But they finally came over, and
But it was the perfect way to watch it because the two friends, and then we were eating and drinking, and
Mhm.
then we watched an episode of Murder She Wrote, which I had never watched before, and that was fun. So
Mhm.
we were very well primed
with
for this
Kaniki from Greece.
with
Yeah.
this terrible ass movie, and I just yeah. I would highly, highly recommend you watch the Lonely
Oh, so
Lady.
it's based on a Harold Robbins novel, which should tell you that it's trash right there. The author of The Carpetbaggers and the Betsy, and what's that movie with?
The Carpetbaggers
Yeah,
about
with
a gang of
Carol
lesbians.
with Carol Baker,
I'm just kidding.
who you
Again,
were
I love
disparaging the
lesbians.
other day. And what's that movie? The Adventures. Oh my God, you need to see that with Candice Bergen.
Okay,
Anyway, it's directed by Peter Sasti, who Pia Zadora throws under the bus in the Blu-ray features.
oh, well, we were fortunate enough that you have the Blu-ray
Yeah.
because there is an interview with Pia Zadora that is gold.
Yes.
That lady is mad.
Oh yeah,
She is real mad
she
and
stayed
crusty,
mad.
and she's talking shit about
But the director Peter Sasti has directed a very infamous film with Joan Collins that I've never seen. It's been released under the title Sharon's Baby, also known as I Don't Want to Be Born. But
same.
I've also seen his film Doom Watch with Judy Geeson, which is terrible.
Okay. Oh God, this episode's gonna be long. You watched something called Intergalactic,
Which I highly recommend. It's an
Oh my
animated
God.
film that basically is showcasing Kid Cudi and all his music. So if you don't really like his music, it might be a lot for you. But he's basically kind of playing a version of himself as a cartoon character. It's directed by Fletcher Mools, co-written by Kenya Barris.
Oh.
And it's about a young man who's an animator he's on like the cusp of fame because his creation's about to take off, and he falls in love with his neighbor, voiced by Jessica Williams, who you know as one of the women from Two Dope Queens, who are now
Oh.
disbanded. Ty Dolla $ign does a voice, Jaden Smith, Timothée Chalamet, Christopher Abbott, Macaulay Culkin, Tiana Taylor, Keith, the great, wonderful Keith David. There was just a lot to like there.
Next, we watched DC Sniper 23 Days of Fear,
We sure did.
starring Charles S. Dutton, who people might know from Rock.
And might know from Alien 3.
I think he's more notable from Rock.
Okay, well, Alien 3.
That show was on for like 5 seasons.
Okay, but Alien 3, okay.
I'm not gonna, of course, Alien 3, but I mean, Rock is that's what probably pays for his kids' college tuition.
Sure.
But it's about the DC Sniper. It's very by the numbers, like.
And Charles Dutton's married to Helen Shaver, who's besides being in Tremors and Desert Hearts, is the voice of Littlefoot's mother.
Yeah, we were into trying to find like made for TV, like like bio thriller or like true crime.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were going through.
This was directed by Tom McLaughlin, who directed Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Sometimes They Come Back, and the best Lifetime movie of all time, which I might have to make a secret film for you one day, In a Child's Name.
Oh.
With Valerie Bertinelli and Louise Fletcher.
Oh yeah, you always mention that.
Oh, I love it.
In the same vein, we watched The Night Stalker.
Yes. I don't know why we put that on.
I think because we were inspired by DC Sniper.
Yes, and this is directed by Megan Griffiths, who did a sex trafficking film called Eden I've reviewed, and some Amy Simons film called The Off Hours. I think that's the title. But it's with Lou Diamond Phillips, who actually looks quite good, being interviewed by a woman.
You talk about me having unreasonable dislike of people, but you were really bothered by this lady. I know
she's beautiful, but that hair was so bad. She looked like Elizabeth Brooks at the end of The Howling.
I'm not going to say her hair looked great, but I was amused at how bothered you were by
Bellamy Young. Her performance is fine, but
she basically plays this lawyer who's trying to get Richard Ramirez to admit to a murder to get one of her clients off.
Mm-hmm.
But she approaches it. It's just so crunchy because she's trying to act like she's like going to manipulate Richard Ramirez.
He was also part of her sexual awakening because she was fascinated with the case as a young girl and was raped by her mother's boyfriend when the news broke of his arrest.
I think that part of the story was actually very interesting.
Sure.
It just, because of the kind of movie it was, it couldn't really go as far as it probably needed to. But it's like her sort of the way she's able to connect with him is of course, Richard Ramirez is a monster who's very sexually motivated. So all he wants to do is talk about her in a sexual way. And so when she finally reveals to him that he's a part of her sexual awakening, that's when he agrees to provide testimony or whatever you would say to admit to a murder so that her client can get off. Would you recommend it?
I think if you like this subject, yeah.
I mean,
Lou Diamond Phillips is always fun to watch.
I enjoyed it because we were kind of laughing at it. Okay, you watched something called
Parcours, which means by hearts. It is only being released in France, and I reviewed it for Ion Cinema. I don't believe he's published that yet, however, but I did turn it in. It stars Isabelle Huppert and Fabrice Lucchini, and they are followed around by Benoit Jacquot, director they both.
That's a new movie.
It's a new movie. Came out in France only, December 28th. Documentary, and it's following these two as they're at some theater festival in 2021, kind of preparing for. She's doing Chekhov's Cherry Orchard. He's reading some passages of Nietzsche. Lucchini seems very much like a thespian who has thoughts about everything he does. Blah blah blah. And Huppert, who I'm not surprised to see how this is how she prepares. How Huppert prepares. She is cramming her lines like she is about to lip sync for her life.
Well, she works so much. That's the only way. It's not like she can learn them earlier. Like
that's because it's funny. In 2017, when somebody asked her how she prepared Madam Hyde, like prepared for her role, she's like, I learned my lines, and that's literally what she does. And then she gets if you like her, it's definitely worth a watch if you can ever get a hold of it. But I of course begged the French distributor for a screener, and for whatever reason they let me have it.
The Coca-Cola Kid.
You were in the room when I watched the first half of it.
Oh, with the Eric
Who
Roberts.
is very young and handsome. It's 1985. It's
I had a hard time with this one.
it's a Yugoslavian filmmaker who's Dusan Makabayev, whose movies I might have to make Sweet Movie a secret film. Sweet Movie and WR Mysteries of the Organism are just fucking fantastic. But this was an English language film he did in Australia, and I think the first half of it's pretty interesting, and then it kind of falls off. But Eric Roberts and Greta Scacchi, I think it has some really nice moments.
It's so damn crunchy.
It is a little crunchy though, yeah.
But yeah, maybe if I were in a different mood, I might have enjoyed it more. Inconceivable.
Inconceivable with Faye Dunaway
Did I watch
and
that?
yes, and Nicolas Cage.
Oh, and Gina Gershon
Gina
and that
Gersh-
lady from Man Eater, and
Nikki
who
Whalen
she had the worst hair in
again.
Man Eater, and then watching Inconceivable, her hair was a nightmare.
Yes, it certainly was. And also, poor Gina Gershon had like fourth billing, and she does all the heavy lifting.
Gina Gershon does all of the work.
Yeah.
She deserves an extra little bump in pay.
Faye Dunaway had nothing to do, of course, but
No.
it's interesting watching her and Nick Cage.
It's Nick Cage and Faye Dunaway played a married couple who are both doctors, and we find out it's kind of like the hand that rocks
It's
the
very
cradle.
much Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but like the Z grade version.
Oh my god! And that them as a couple, them as doctors doesn't make any sense.
It's like I know you guys are up to no good.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
We've owned it. I bought it for you years ago because Nick Cage at one point was your fave.
I would recommend it to laugh at.
Sure.
Surviving Christmas. Did I watch that?
Yes, you did.
Who's in that?
Ben Affleck.
Oh my god! I don't even understand. This movie's so bad that I kind of came back around to it.
Kind of, because it's almost like, oh, I can see how this slapsticky, stupid scenario could have maybe worked.
Ben Affleck's character, or him as the actor, there's a choice for him to act a way that's
He seems insane.
yeah, but not like it was. He was the most grating part of the movie.
I agree.
But Catherine O'Hara is just so fun.
She is, and James Gandolfini, rest in peace.
Ben Affleck plays this rich guy who insists that you cannot be alone on Christmas, and his girlfriend has just broken up with him. So he goes back to the home he grew up in, and the family who lives.
First he accosts the therapist of a friend or something, Stephen Root, in the airport,
who says you need to go back to your roots or your childhood and like write like a note and like write all your grievances and then light it on fire in front of your childhood home. So as he's doing that, James Gandolfini, who now lives in the home, assaults him, like knocks him unconscious. And when he wakes up, Ben Affleck's like, hey, this is what I got to do. Don't worry. I'll pay you $250,000 if you pretend to be my family through Christmas. And we don't know how, it's like a few days maybe.
Yeah.
And he basically takes over these people's lives, but he's such a dick
and hires an old man to play the grandpa,
who he calls Doodad, but then James Gandolfini keeps calling him Doodoo. And then Christina Applegate shows up as their adult daughter because she comes home for the holidays, and then they spark a romance. But then his girlfriend shows up unannounced, and it was really hard to sit through like the first half hour. But then when Christina Applegate shows up, then things start happening. There's a moment when Ben Affleck pays for like Catherine O'Hara to have like a fashion photo shoot
done by Udo Kier.
And I would say the movie's worth watching just for that, because she looks crazy as hell.
An insane moment. And then Udo's supposedly into it.
I've heard people say that they think James Gandolfini is attractive, and I remember thinking like, y'all crazy, but I actually thought he was attractive in this movie. Like there were moments where I thought he was
well, it's before his weight was really out of control, and he has a vibe for sure.
Masquerade.
Oh god, this was a lot of fun. I can't believe it's taken me. It's not great, but it has a great score by what's his name, John Barry. And I do like Meg Tilly, even though I think she's incorrectly cast in this. But Rob Lowe, young and handsome, trying to screw over this very rich young orphaned heiress, and things kind of sort of backfire very heavily.
Was I in the room?
No, I did post a you could tell a man wrote this, because at one point she leans over to Rob Lowe and she's like, oh, I imagine it'd be pleasant to be pregnant in Florida.
Oh, that's right.
No woman has ever said that. The humidity of Florida with all the bugs and lizards. No. But it's the reason I put it on was because it's the follow-up to a film directed by Bob Swaim, who you were familiar with, Half Moon Street,
Oh, with
uh,
Segovia
which
Weaver.
is not a good film either, which is based on a book by Paul Theroux I've never read. But this was his follow up, and I'd say it's better, but it has some dumb things going on.
Okay, we have to take another break. All right, we still have more movies we watch for fun. So, our live review of House Party 2
Mhm.
on Friday or Saturday, yesterday,
Yesterday, yeah,
prompted us to watch Class Act, a
yes,
1992 film.
directed by Randall Miller, who I've reviewed CBGB, which I didn't really like, and also I remember I've never seen it, but heavily advertised the film House Guest with Sinbad.
While I actually quite liked Class
I
Act,
did
I
too.
liked it more than
House Party
House Party
2,
2, and I
same.
would probably give Class Act like 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
Kid and Play also star in it, who star
Mhm.
in the House Party movies, this rap duo, but they play like they play high school students, which I think is funny because they just the year before had released a movie where they're in
Going to
college,
college,
or
yeah.
one of them at least. So I think it's funny that they're back in high school because these
Mhm.
look like grown ass men. But they Kid is like a genius who's trying to get into like a super elite school, and Play is this reprobate,
Mhm.
and they both end up going to the same high school.
Because the thing Kid has never done is pass physical
Kid is
education.
they his parents have found a way to keep him out of physical
Oh, and
education.
his dad's played by Meshack Taylor.
He is, so that's why he's going to this school. And the principal's assistant, who's like a sexual predator, she mixes up their school, like what do you call it,
Files.
files. So now the good kid is known as the bad kid, and they spend the bulk of the movie trying to cover for each other because they
Mhm.
both need to make this happen. If
Yes.
Play is not a if Play doesn't make it happen, he goes back to jail, and if Kid doesn't make it happen, he can't get into the equivalent of Harvard. And I just thought it was very cleverly written. There are a lot of moments that I thought like, wow, whoever wrote this really had some good like ideas.
Mhm.
I laughed a lot. And then the villain in the movie is this guy who looks like, first of all,
He looks like a thin Lavelle Crawford. Yeah.
he looks like a emaciated Lavelle Crawford,
But my first thought was a black Ernest
and
Borgnine.
he's supposed to be in high school with them. And
Yeah.
then Tommy from Martin, Thomas McHale Ford, I believe is his real name.
Yes.
He plays
He's the heavy.
like the heavy, the drug lord who uh skinny Lavelle Crawford works for.
He was kind of fun to watch.
And the high school student looks older than Tommy.
Yeah.
But he keeps getting beat up. Oh my god, it's so funny. Like
And Dougie Doug,
Dougie Doug is in it.
Popsicle,
It's just so cute. I would highly recommend Class Act. I would watch it again.
and Loretta Devine plays mom,
Yes,
who has not enough to do, but she looked young and cute.
she did. And then to round out movies we watch for fun, you put on Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, because you said you hadn't seen it since it came out.
It came out, and like we saw it in a drive-in theater. I didn't remember the plot at all, and actually once the movie got going, I realized that I didn't remember it at all because I think I was thinking of the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Twins.
I thought Kindergarten Cop was twins then.
Same director, Ivan Reitman. Yeah.
So, but I saw Twins when it came out as well, but I
Mhm.
couldn't tell you anything. I thought Kindergarten Cop was cute.
It is very cute.
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger with kids is like a recipe for comedy gold
Mhm.
because he's like this monster, and the kids, some of whom are adorable.
Yeah, that little girl from
The
Beethoven.
little girl from Beethoven is perfect.
Mhm. And the kid from Pet Sematary.
He's so little, and the scenes where they're walking like for the fire like alarm
Mhm.
drill, he's just like half the size of the other kids. All of that's very funny, but then the thriller component with the bad guy played by
Oh, what's his name?
who looks like Kurt
He
Russell's
looks like a
douchey
bargain basement
younger.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
But I love Carol Baker as
she's
the
very
evil,
effective.
of the evil grandma.
Yeah, she's very effective.
And Penelope Ann Miller as the damsel in distress. Pamela Reed, I think, has a lot of fun as, especially when she's pretending to be his Austrian sister.
Yes.
And I, of course, always love Linda Hunt.
Oh yeah,
as the principal.
As the principal of the school. It was. I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, but it very much like cuts corners and forces us to believe that no, those two are in love.
Okay, moving on. Projects of interest.
Oh, yeah.
Baumbach, Pitt, Sandler.
Oh, Noah Baumbach, who you just watched White Noise, and I know you're a fan of Marriage Story, is reuniting with Adam Sandler for his next project, who I know he directed in Adam Sandler's in the Meyerowitz stories, right? Yeah. Uh, which Sigourney shows up as herself in. I haven't made you watch that yet. Brad Pitt has also signed on to his new movie because I think after the success of Marriage Story, Baumbach signed a pretty good deal with Netflix, so it'll be a Netflix film.
And Dolly.
Dolly looks like how we're supposed to say it. Quentin Dupieux, who apparently doesn't take any breaks, because he just had a movie at Cannes this year called "Smoking Makes You Cough," which was kind of fun and was on John Waters' Best of the Year list. But his new movie Dolly, where he's reuniting with Agnès de Moustier and a bunch of other people he likes, is about a French journalist who meets Salvador Dali on various occasions for a documentary project. So expect goofy fun.
Okay, unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. First is I don't want to. I'm gonna butcher his um, birth name, Edson Arantes do Nascimento, who is known as Pelé. He's
He's Brazilian, right?
a
Yeah.
Brazilian football, or as we like to say, soccer player. He passed away at the age of 82. I will be honest, I'm not familiar with who Pele is.
hmm
I didn't even, yeah,
God, there was a documentary about him. God, was
but
that
he
10
obviously
years
had a
ago?
lot of impact, and people seem really sad that he died. Obviously, I don't know. I
Oh, okay.
don't know who this person is. Do you?
Yeah, of course I've
Oh,
heard of him.
Vivienne Westwood passed.
And all we heard of her. Yep.
Well, I'm not into fashion. I don't know anything about anything, and a lot of people like to go, "Oh, it's giving Mugler, it's giving blah Chanel," and I do, like Mugler to me is like very industrial, like,
Yeah, you
and
watch
then
enough
like
things. You
Chanel, I know like the
Alexander McQueen, that.
McQueen, I know like Ruffle and like British Prince and Versace, like I get that, but I think like Vivienne Westwood to me is like I that's probably the first reference I ever knew because they say it a lot in Ab Fab.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and then she was a very vibrant person. Like she would do cartwheels and she had a very specific like hairstyle and her makeup was always kind of garish. And so I do
Sure.
like, she's a reference that I probably I think she was the first fashion reference that if you said it was like Vivienne Westwood, I would know what that meant.
Sure.
But she's gone. Barbara Walters is gone.
Oh, I mean, that's, we knew that was coming.
Yeah. I mean, she's a trailblazer and started The View. And of course, when I was a kid, watching 2020 was like
2020
requisite on a
with
Friday.
Hugh Downs. And yeah.
Yeah. So she'll be missed. And I know that she was known, she got a lot of criticism back in like the 70s and 80s because she would ask, well, even the 90s, like she would ask tough questions that when you look back on now, a lot of people, like a lot of feminists interpret her as being like a lot of the questions she would ask women seem like,
Well, Katharine Hepburn got testy with her.
yeah. And I've recently, because it's been all over social media, taking glimpses of some of these moments, and it's like, yeah, probably wouldn't approach people that way in 2022. But also for a woman in that industry trying to be taken seriously, it's almost like you're forced to be what maybe some people would have said in the 90s and the early 2000s, like she's being a bitch. But it's like, well, she was trying to be legit. But and my only thing, one of the bigger things I remember about Barbara Walters saying is about her sex life as an older woman, and saying that you just need lube, like. So yeah. And lastly, Pope Benedict the 16th died. He was the pope before our current one.
Oh, that's too bad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know much about his views. I don't remember. I don't think he was, because our current pope has been the most sort of
Open.
progressive.
Yeah.
But I don't know how backwards this guy was. But you know, oh, I did want to mention with this one, since people made comments about my comments about death, but I always wonder, like, for people who believe in heaven and who are very religious, why are they so afraid of dying? Because if you're going to heaven, wouldn't that be like an upgrade?
Yeah.
So why are y'all like acting a plumb fool when anyone dies, like jumping in the casket and grieving for forever? Like, aren't they going to a better
It's
place?
because no one actually really knows.
Well, it's because everyone's selfish. Like, they
Well,
just
that
think about
too.
how they feel. And it's like, well, if you really believe in all this bullshit, shouldn't you be happy for
Shouldn't
them
you be
that
happy that
they're going off to glory?
they're
Like,
going up there and there's like 35,000 virgins waiting for them or whatever? Oh, that's a
hubba.
different religion. Okay, never.
Can we get through our secret movie in 15 minutes? I don't think
Oh
so,
God.
but we'll try. Okay, so our secret movie today, we had our theme for our live reviews was party because of New Year's Eve. So we picked 5 films that have party in the title. And this was one of the more heated polls because 2 films were neck and neck, Party
Mm.
Monster and House Party 2. And of course, House Party 2 won. But there were a lot of comments like, I'm not watching House Party 2 and I want you to review Party
Oh
Monster.
boy.
So here we are. We're going to talk about the 2003 American biographical crime drama film written and directed by Fenton Bailey and Randy Barbato.
Better known as the men behind
Wow.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Wow present or like Wow Network, which
Yeah.
does RuPaul's Drag Race. It's the film Party Monster. It's based on James St. James' book or memoir called Disco Bloodbath.
Mhm.
I have I of course had seen this movie probably like in 2004.
I saw, yeah, I remember. I think this was playing when I first moved to the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
This was playing at the Lagoon Chain.
This might have been like my 4th time watching it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I forgot. I remember liking the soundtrack, and I forgot how many things on the soundtrack I really liked.
Overall, I think the movie's I would give it like 3.5 out of 5. I think it's very good. It's a very interesting story because it's based on the memoir of someone who was, so for people who don't know, Party Monster is about, it's written by James St. James, who was a club kid back in the 80s and 90s in New York City. And he befriended a guy named Michael Alec, who became a very prominent club kid and party promoter in New York and was convicted of murdering a drug dealer. So he became infamous
Mm-hmm.
and then ultimately only served like, what was it, like 15 years or something, got out, and then he died like 2 years ago, I think.
December 25th, 2020.
So, but the movie is about the book James St. James wrote. So it's like from the perspective of this person who was sort of like a hanger on to this murderer. And I think the movie suffers from that perspective because the most interesting part of, and to me, is the drug use that fueled this murder and how these people tried to cover it up and the aftermath, because it went on for a couple months that the
Mhm.
police really didn't, because it was like, this queer drug dealer
Yeah, they didn't
who
want to
was a
deal. They
person
didn't
of
want to deal
color.
with
It's
it.
like, I'm not saying it was racially motivated, but just like that entire community, like the cops had better things to do than, oh, another missing person. So I think that would have been the better movie. We
Sure.
spend a lot of time with James St. James, who is an interesting person, but I think as played by Seth Green, Macaulay Culkin plays Michael Alec. I I really think that we didn't need James St. James. I would have preferred more of Michael Alec and his relationship with the club owner played by Dylan McDermott.
But sure, but then it sets up this kind of all about Eve scenario where, Michael Alec comes in, swoops in, and basically copies what James St. James, according,
Right. But I think what the film does well is, because it's extremely low budget, I think because what these club kids were doing is these kids had no money, no resources, which, you know, the club kid scene is very, to me, like, I mean, it's adjacent to the ballroom scene.
Mhm.
And I feel like
Fantasy.
a fantasy. I think the ballroom scene is more appealing to me than for obvious reasons, maybe. But
Yeah.
I think what this does really well is the glamour that all these club kids wanted to present, but then they have no resources. I think the film being shot in digital and watching it in 2022, it has that grittier vibe. And then,
Well, it feels like a time capsule of film that's in itself a time capsule of an earlier period.
right. So I think in that way, the experience, like, it's all very effective. And I think watching, I mean, we can get into it, but I think it's interesting, like these two men, these male actors who I believe both identify as heterosexual,
Mhm.
playing these two gay characters
Well,
or queer
super flamboyant.
and super flamboyant. I'm sure people have opinions about that. Mine would be that I think it works.
I think it works because I've met people like this. And also, you have to remember that these gay men themselves were putting on an exaggerated persona.
And also, these are real people, so it's not like a straight male actor is.
It's not like, never once felt uncomfortable watching this now. Yeah, see, in 2003, I think I was filled with self-loathing and probably I think in my mind's eye had a completely different reaction to this film. But I didn't feel uncomfortable as in watching Richard Burton and Rex Harrison be simpering in this, what that movie called, The Staircase.
Mm, I'm just going to go through my notes. When we, the movie kind of opens with James St. James, Seth Green, talk like he's giving an interview based on the book he wrote. So it's, making it very aware that this is based on his book. And then he sort of gives a history of how he met Michael Alec. Um, but when the place that Michael Alec Macaulay's character lives in is so dirty. And
Mm-hmm.
then he's serving like tea and scones, and there are flies everywhere. And this is the opening of the film because we're supposed to understand that there's a dead body
Mm-hmm.
decomposing in the apartment. That was so gross. But then, so when they first meet, like you mentioned, Michael Alec wants to copy James St. James. And so after he meets him, he agrees. Michael wants to hang out with James, so they agree to meet at a donut shop. And I thought that scene was kind of funny because James is teaching Michael like how to be social and
Mm-hmm.
work the room and how to take photos to be in the papers. And again, because they're being so flamboyant and their patrons in the donut shop looking at them like they're crazy. I thought it did a very good job of showing how out of place these types of people were in their
Mm-hmm.
environment.
Well, and then end up becoming famous for not doing anything.
Wilmer Valderrama, good thing he's attractive because I don't think that man can act. I watched
No, he can't.
several episodes of whatever when I was on the cruise. I think it's like NCIS or something.
Mm-hmm.
I watched several episodes with the seasons that he's on, and even there, it's like he is not.
No.
He's just good looking, but other than that, but he plays the DJ, the superstar DJ Kyoki,
Mm-hmm.
who Macaulay's character Michael Alec.
Spinning Vitalik in the last scene we're with
The
him. Yeah.
music is very
Mm-hmm.
good.
Got some Ladytron.
Dylan McDermott playing this Peter Gatian, that
Gation, I think.
Gation, I'm sorry, club owner. Dylan McDermott is much more handsome than the
Yes, he
actual
is.
Peter
Even
Gatian.
with his one little
With his
eye.
little one patch, because I guess he is missing an eye.
Yeah.
Because we see it at one point.
And Mia Kirshner as his wife.
Who's gorgeous. She
Uh-huh.
reminds me of Anna de Armas.
Yeah, she kind of looks like that. Mm-hmm.
But Michael Alec invites Peter to his house for Christmas. And Peter's rich, and then Michael lives in like a crack den. But when Peter shows up for Christmas, DJ Kyoki and James St. James are there in this dirty ass apartment, and Peter, as a Christmas gift, brings like a grandfather cuckoo clock up the walk up building. Like what?
And then Diana Scarwood plays Alec's mother, Elka, who you know as the little Christina Crawford from Mommy Dearest.
Yes, I think she's very good in the movie.
Yeah.
But that Christmas scene, a couple of things happen that I think are really funny. One is that Michael is trying to show Peter or explain to him that he needs more opportunities, and he covers his or that's a different scene.
That's a different scene.
Oh, in that scene, Michael gets mad at James St. James because he's like flirting with DJ Kyoki.
Mm-hmm.
So as Michael's serving everyone champagne, he pees in James' glass.
Mm-hmm.
So then James drinks Michael's urine.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows, Peter knows he did it. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very well done scene because the way James reacts to drinking the urine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also that Christmas, or James St. James is explaining to DJ Kyoki how to be a DJ. And he says there are 3 rules.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, play the Studio 54 compilation mix.
Mm-hmm.
No one will know that it works perfectly. And then he tells him Madonna always works.
Mm-hmm.
Just play Madonna. And lastly, he tells him play techno because everyone will think you're cutting edge. Yeah. I thought that was funny. I didn't realize there's a character named Christina the Superstar, and that's Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, who apparently those were his own falsies that he showed up with in wig.
Oh, who dated Dita Von Teese?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, I thought Dita, because I'm not very familiar with her. I thought that lady, looking at her on stage and even in person, I thought she was in her 30s. That lady is 50 years old.
Yeah, I guess she was in her late
She looks
40s. She's
great.
been around for a long time, yeah.
She's living right. Um,
And she was in, you didn't watch it, but Don't Worry, Darling.
oh, she
She
is.
does her martini glass thing in that movie, yeah.
Oh,
As a
well,
blonde. Apparently, she's really a blonde.
yeah, she is. Well, we when we met her, you could see like the nape of her neck. You could see blonde hair.
Oh,
So I don't think she was wearing a wig. I think she just maybe didn't color
oh,
that.
maybe
She
it's
missed that
it's
part.
kind of like how Winona Ryder, I think, is really
Yeah.
blonde.
Um, but Marilyn Manson as Christina, there's a scene where they're going to have like a rave party inside of a semi truck, and
Well,
Christina's driving it while she just dropped acid. Like, what were they going to do with the semi
with those
truck?
big ass heels.
Oh my God, that gave me so much anxiety. There's a scene where Michael gives the cat cocaine.
Mm-hmm. Scriddle, and Scroot.
Scrod, I don't know what the names were. Um, okay, there was a scene that didn't make sense to me. James and Michael decide to make a magazine about like the club scene.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, because he's an awful person, writes a horrible story about James about how he's like trafficking like white slaves or
Yeah,
something. And he sends that article to James' dad. And we're told that James St. James is rich, like he lives off of a trust fund.
yeah.
And when the dad sees this, the dad revokes James' trust fund. And his reaction to Michael is very lukewarm.
I think that's the writing of that scene, and because he slams the magazine down and says, "I'm cut off," and I'm like, "What is that? Like your picture's cut off?" Is how I thought of it, and then
I would have thought, like, I'm gonna have to kill you. You just fucked my money up.
and they need money for
Like my
drugs.
trust fund is
Yeah,
gone. Like, because then he has to move in with Michael, and
yeah,
they don't have any money for drugs. And
yeah. There was a dimension of that missing.
speaking of drugs, there's a scene where James and Michael, or James and Michael are baking drugs like in the
Mm-hmm.
oven,
Yeah,
and then the drug dealer wearing leather pleather pants is like passed out on the coffee table. So when James brings like the baking dish of hot drugs out, he doesn't know where to put it, so he just puts it on the drug dealer's pleather covered ass. Like,
and it's sizzling.
I thought the movie again did a really good job of showing like the despair and just I don't I didn't watch Requiem for a Dream, but I'm assuming there are scenes where it's just like these people on drugs and these
Mm-hmm.
horrible. I feel like this film also captures that, but then it's also like these people who want to be glamorous but living in
You haven't
squalor.
seen Requiem?
No.
Oh, Ellen Burstyn's so good in that.
So I do think this film does that really well. Um
And then they go to Dallas to recruit, more club kids.
and then we see
Natasha Lyonne, who
well, before they go to Dallas, the reason they're actually in Dallas is because Natasha's character, who's like a club promoter, saw them on the John Stamos talk show.
which is who's doing like Geraldo. Yeah,
And on that show, Michael is being such a brat. He's
yeah,
like telling like the world that all of these people are drug dealers.
yes.
And at one point he tells James St. James, like, oh yeah, I was arrested last week, but it was fine because I gave them your name. It's just like he is vile.
Yeah, he's terrible. But then he falls for Gitzy, played by Chloe Sevigny.
I also think that that wasn't very well written. Like, is that your girlfriend or she's just a hanger on? I
I
mean,
think she's a hanger. I think she was an enabler
I think that could have been more refined.
because
Again, I think this movie should have been more about Michael Alec.
they're doing so much drug. I think because you were watching some documentary after about how this was a response to AIDS, where all these people were just doing drugs and sex wasn't an issue because they were too fucked up to have sex. So
Oh,
like that's how this component was able to flourish because people were afraid of equating sex with death. So this was a way to reclaim the club scene by just being obliterated.
so the scene I was mentioning about Peter's eye is Michael gives Peter, his boss, a gift, which is drugs. But then he covers his one good eye, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is so funny. And then we get a scene where they're like in a hotel suite and it's like their drug den.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even mention the person who was killed. It was a guy named Angel,
Played by Wilson Cruz.
this Colombian guy in real life who yeah, he was the drug dealer that Michael used and never paid.
Well, because he lived with them too for a while.
And it was him not paying that precipitated the fight,
Mm-hmm.
because of course Michael, the way the movie presents it, was awful to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
um you know it's very gruesome how this person died, and I don't need to know every little detail because I've watched it in other documentaries and I'm aware. But
I
the
mean, he
film,
injected him with Drano.
yeah, I mean,
Ugh.
it does. They hit him with a hammer, injected him with Drano, dismembered him,
Put
put his.
Drano in his mouth and taped it. Ugh.
So it's awful. But we get the way it's explained to the audience in the film is that like a rat that was living in the baseboards, like James St. James has a vision of this, like a dream, and the rat is showing him
Hmm.
how everything happened. I thought that was a really interesting way to do it. Um, okay, I promise this is the last break.
Okay.
Okay. This episode is really long. I wrote down a bunch of quotes that I thought were funny. I think the writing, I don't know if this was just pulled straight from the book, or the screenwriter actually made a lot of this up, but
Well, the directors wrote the screenplay, so
oh,
I'm assuming a lot of it came from the book.
there's a moment when James tells Michael, "You've gone too far with drugs," and Michael says, "Have you looked in the mirror lately?" And then when Michael's mom is talking to John Stamos, like the TV host, she's like, "This is Michael. He was always making money, my little candy man." Because she has this like, what kind of accent is it?
Some kind of European accent.
It's cute.
Well, Elka is that's a very Scandinavian name, isn't it?
Then Michael's talking about how he was molested as a kid, and then he goes, "One day his mother caught us and screamed, 'I told you not to bring them here.'" Like, oh my god.
Elka's German, I think.
Oh, then is it Mike? No, James is talking about his upbringing and then like how hard it was. And Michael goes, "I had a hard time growing up too." And then James is so initially so mean and dismissive to Michael.
And then he gets his just desserts,
He
kind of.
does, because when Michael introduces himself, he's like, "Hi, I'm Michael." And James says, "Well, I'll alert the media." And when Michael first meets Peter, he's like, "I love the eye patch, by the way. It's very Pirates of the Caribbean." Um, when uh oh gosh, when James, played by Seth, is like rubbing on Wilmer's crotch. Um, and then he goes, "Oh, if I were a glove upon that hand."
Mhm.
Like, I I think the way Macaulay and Seth play these characters, I don't know. I was really into it, and I
Mhm.
think Macaulay,
Which is from Romeo and Juliet.
he is. Oh, it is.
Mhm.
He's very. He has a cute little body on him. I was surprised. Like he's more in this movie because
Mhm.
you get a lot of him wearing like very little clothing. I was
Mhm.
surprised that he's a little meatier than you might think. Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna go through all these quotes. There were just a lot that I thought were funny.
I'm not addicted to drugs. I'm addicted to glamour.
It's very well written, for what it is and for being so low budget. Oh god, in the end when Macaulay is like Chloe's taking a bath and he's on the toilet and he's like having trouble peeing, and she's like, "Well, come in the bathtub." And then he gets in for a while and they start talking. He's like, "Oh, I can pee now." Ooh, when Michael's describing the dismemberment, and he goes, "The meat just fell away and the bones just snapped." Like,
Oh,
ooh,
then he had him in that box in that living room.
oh my god. And then when Michael is trying to convince Peter to let him have this like blood themed party,
Blood feast.
yeah, and Peter's like, "No, you've gone too far." And he's like, "But it's my birthday and I want to have a blood feast." And then when John Stamos asked the mom, like, "Well, I heard that your son gave you ecstasy. How was it?" And she's like, "Well, he told me
It was for her
it was
headache.
for my headache." And then John Stamos is like, "And well, my headache went away." uh, oh God. Um, I do have to mention this one. Um, when James and Michael are bickering, James tells Michael, "Well, you're the Paula Abdul to my Janet Jackson."
And he goes, "Is that good?" And
Like,
Seth Green has a side eye look.
yes, bitch, of course. Anyway, blah blah blah. That's Party Monster.
Yeah,
So
it was fun to revisit because, yeah, I haven't seen it since 2003.
Well, I could probably wait another 20 years to watch it again.
I mean, and again, you put on some girl talking about how it hasn't aged well because we have these, straight actors playing that. Again, I think that the gay man that wrote this, based on the gay man's memoirs, I think that they they are just conduits for this material. And I thought I know people that act this way.
And if you're trying to make a low budget film and you can get
These people probably got the film made because their names were
and
attached.
Macaulay Culkin, like he hadn't worked in a while because he had
Yes, I think
retired.
his first film in 9 years. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then for him, like this kid star of immense like uh fame to then agree now as an adult to do this movie about a gay murderer is pretty cool. So like of course you would say like yes. And then he went all in.
He
he
did.
he didn't shy away from anything and from looking crazy, so I feel like he definitely earned that role. Okay, this week what's happening?
What is happening? Megan, you get to see Megan.
I get to see Megan. You've already seen it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like it's a nice smooth start into the new year, hopefully.
Yeah. I think House Party that remake comes out this week as well.
Oh, so I'll be watching that this week.
Probably. Haven't seen anything from publicists on it.
Oh, maybe you've been blacklisted.
Blacklisted. No, they probably aren't. Maybe they aren't screening it for press.
Oh, maybe it's not good.
The first week of January is not a good sign, which is why I was surprised I liked Megan.
Oh,
But usually it means that the studio has anxiety about it. I think. I finished reading The Sluts by Dennis Cooper, which was very dark and actually kind of
you look
thematic.
like a slut.
Look like I am. Very much in fitting with Party Monster. Very easy read, but also difficult with the subject matter. But if you know Dennis Cooper, who wrote probably most famous for Frisk, because there was a film version of that. And now I'm reading The Street of Crocodiles by Bruno Schulz, a Polish Jew who was murdered by the Nazis in 1942.
Just some light reading.
Yeah, you know me. And
Yeah, I know you. That's why you're crazy as a shithouse rat. But anyway,
what?
you read all this. Yeah, you're a sweet, soft, loving person.
Because the world's a sweet, soft living place, isn't it?
Oh, always a reason. Always a reason for the season.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's about it, right?
Well, we have more people who have sponsored the podcast on Anchor, so thank you. And we have more people sending us money on Venmo just to say thank you. So, I mean, that's really sweet. We do receive it, so thank you for that. If you want to send us money on Venmo,
Oh boy,
you're welcome to do so. You can sponsor the podcast. You can leave thanks on our YouTube videos. Yeah.
I didn't realize, because I was asked, because we don't do commercials during the podcast, and I didn't realize that you were turning down some offers.
Yeah, we do get asked to there are people who want to sponsor, like have us do ads, but I don't want to do things that I wouldn't actually. I mean, I would sell out like how Maria Bamford did her Target ads, but she got paid well. Like
She did.
I would do a Target ad, but I'm not going to sell it's just stuff that I don't.
Things that you don't want to be reading scripts for, that like, I love this mattress.
Yeah, I mean, commercials do play during the podcast, but they're like,
It's not me.
It's not me, but for me to say it is like, it would have to be something I actually.
Sure.
So if Maserati wants to sponsor, I would love a Quattroporte Grand Lusso.
They're not gonna. I think you're aiming too high.
Maybe too high. Well, I would love some Chipotle gift cards.
Okay, that's always good.
Nice. Well, I'd want a check plus Chipotle gift cards. I don't want to use the check to pay for the Chipotle. Yeah, so things like that sure. I like. Things I would actually use. Or they want you to like wear the stuff, or people ask us like play stuff in the background of our videos, but it's like, do you watch our videos? They're all green screen, so I can't like whatever stuff you want me to show, I can't show it in our videos because we don't have a background. So, and then it's still stuff that I wouldn't use or want.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think consumable goods would be something that would work well for us. Luxury items, fragrances, but then you can't really smell those through the visual. But
we can have smell-o-vision, like polyester.
Yeah, we can. I don't know. Now I'm just rambling. Do you have anything else you want to say? Do you have a quote?
Oh, I did. I had a hopeful quote from Dickens for all of you.
Oh, Charles Dickens?
Yes.
Is Dick? Wait, Dick is short for Richard,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be Dick Dickens.
Charles
It
would
would
be
be
like Chuck.
Chuck Dickens.
Good old Chuck Dickens. Chicky Donahue.
Chicky Dickens.
Chicky Dickens, you know, who went to Vietnam to give his friends beer.
Chicky Dickens. Dick Dickens went to Vietnam to give all for anyone who doesn't know, that's a reference to the movie The Greatest Beer Run Ever, starring Zac Efron and Russell Crowe.
Bill Murray. Yo, Bill Murray.
That was on our worst of 2022
Yeah, it's not good.
list. Anyway, what's your quote from Dick Dickens?
Have a heart that never hardens, and a temper that never tires, and a touch that never hurts.
And a tuck that never drops.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. I'm
Bye.
sure if he did drag.
Okay. Bye.